We're back with part 2 of the Melbourne Pro Punters panel. As usual, Darren Potter, I'm Anthony Jupp. You can head to one to follow to make sure you head and tick like on the Facebook page and follow them on Twitter, and you can follow me. I'm at the picnics. And also you can head to Top Editor. There'll be plenty of tournament action coming up for each Saturday and each day. There's tournaments, and there's some good sport tournaments there at the minute, so make sure you head along there. Potts, before the break we were talking about some of the tracks as well as what's sort of been happening and what's coming up. Track that's had a little bit of an issue, but we've known this for a while, is we've lost a few races at Ballarat recently, again where it rained during the meeting, but there's not much they can do there really, is there?
Short of
ripping it up,
redoing it,
yeah,
completely renovating it afresh. So the new track manager, whose name escapes me, it's driving me insane that I can't. So I apologise. I hope he watches the show. He moved to Ballarat not that long ago, post the work being done.
Yeah, I think it was about 2014, 2015 they had the work done.
Yeah, he was previously Wodonga. So they took out all the dirt to completely rebuild it in the home straight and the chute. Okay,
yeah.
They left the rest of that part of the track alone.
Yeah,
both
so
the inner and the outer.
Basically the work they did was to get rid of the dip.
Yeah.
So they ripped all that up, but they left the rest of the course, the old course proper that had been there for 80 years or something.
And so rather than getting new soil or whatever, they just used that soil they had,
yeah,
but they ground it up to a very fine powder, and when they put it back in, it just compacted. So it's almost like it's just the base underneath it it's clay based.
Yeah.
It's just really, really firm. So when there's dry weather there, the home straight and the chute races really quick.
Yeah. And it's at least a couple of lengths quicker, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other part, which is where the low point of the course is. And then of course when it rains, that base underneath is so firm and it's clay.
It doesn't absorb water.
The water has. So he's put a lot of work into it, putting sand slits in it to help, and that's improved the situation. But they're sort of trying to overcome an issue that is not the creation of the current track manager. But I think he's doing an excellent job, and people just sort of have to understand the circumstances that are there. That rain on the day is going to be particularly difficult for that course because it's so firm in that home straight that the moistures can't get down deep enough. Like the sand slits have helped. Yeah, sure they've helped, but it still does become a bit slippery and people can imagine what really firm clay is like when it gets wet.
Well, I can remember you saying, Potts, after you walked the track on just before the Ballarat Cup meeting, you said that was nearly the firmest track you'd ever walked before. And it's through no fault of the track. You pour as much water on it as you like. It's just not going to get down deep enough where it's going to stay in the subsoil and create moisture and create give.
So the point is, I didn't know why that was. Yeah. I just knew that it was. Yeah. That it was clear to me that as you come around the sweeping turn in the circle races, you were going to hit that firm surface and off you'd go. You'd pinch your length.
And that is what the punters need to be aware of.
Yeah. So, but then when I went down there the second time, I saw him and he explained the whole thing to me. It made perfect sense. Yeah. The explanation just fits beautifully with the facts in front of you. So,
and it's almost a little bit similar to Mornington, isn't it? Where you swing that home bend at Mornington when it's wet, and that's the lowest point of the track at Mornington, that home bend. And then if you hit the dry ground first, you do pinch a couple of lengths.
Yeah, that's a fair analogy. But to be honest, I think Ballarat's been racing quite well, and they've just had some difficulties on the day when they've had heavy rain mid-meeting. I think most tracks struggle under those circumstances. So, all good. I think Ballarat's okay. I think we can keep betting there.
Yeah, and it's I suppose the other thing that can't be that far away, Potts, it might be a few more weeks yet, and we're not far away from getting back into the synthetic stuff, are we?
Yeah, no, that's coming. So.
But there's another thing that's coming that I'm very excited about, Potts.
What's that, mate?
Well, it's only another couple of weeks and then I'm off to Warrnambool.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
So I think you'll find that there'll be plenty of horses kicking around at the moment. I know that was the problem that they had with, I know you sent out, as part of the Potters plays, there was a couple of events there at Terang on Sunday, but I think if anyone saw the first, or if you haven't, go and have a look at the replay, there was never a chance that they were going to get that meeting concluded just with the sheer amount of rain that they had down there. And the other thing with Terang
I think if the rain hadn't stopped, they probably would have been fine.
Yeah, well, but Terang's a natural old track with no real drainage, so it just sits there. So, and then they looked at rescheduling the Terang Cup because it was Terang Cup.
I was a bit dirty because I had back 2 wet trackers. I'm very confident they would have beat Mossendale. Anyway.
Well, I spoke to it, and we'll give him another shout out. Nathan Snow, who was half dirty that they called a no race to the Sydney Cup on Saturday because he was on the winner when half the field was decked and whatnot. So we'll have a bit of a chat about Sydney while we're there, Potts. They had no real choice but to call it a no race, did they, considering where those horses broke down. The interesting point to come out of it was, I know it's the 1,000,000 to 1 shot, but geez, you'd hate to... Could you imagine the media if that had happened at the 200 metre mark at Flemington on the first Tuesday in November? Yeah. Where a horse broke down at the furlong pole in the Melbourne Cup, and the screen's out. And the other thing that there's been
such a wide track. I mean, anyway, I don't really want to imagine that jumpy ever. So
no, neither do I. But the thing that they could use is, and it wouldn't be that hard because there's only, well, especially at Moonee Valley's a bit different because they run a heap of 3,000 metre races there. But I think other than the Duke of Norfolk, maybe the Derby and the Melbourne Cup, I don't know how many other races on the calendar Flemington have where they go more than a lap.
Well, there's a good amount of 2,500 metre races.
Yeah, okay. Well,
anyway, I mean...
But we've already got the protocols in place for the jumps racing. So they have 2 flags, one for avoid the next jump and another flag for pull up altogether.
Yeah.
And then they just put witches' hats around where you can't go.
Yeah.
So they could look at adopting something like that if you wanted to keep going, but I think if something like that happens at Flemington, and the other thing that sort of come out of Sydney is...
I think it's a freak accident. It's going to happen once every 50 years or something.
Well, it's going to happen every, 5 or 10,000 races maybe.
Yeah.
If that.
And as you rightly point out, Juppy, there's so few races where they do 2 laps. So it doesn't happen very often. It's got to happen in a race where they're doing 2 laps, and it's got to happen at the right point of that race. Yeah. So I just don't think it's something that we should all get too bogged down in, really.
Winks, she just seems to go from strength to strength. Potts,
what surprises me most about Winks is they keep letting you on. Like, she should be going around at Black Caviar type odds.
Yeah.
Because there's not a chance of any of those horses ever getting near her. So you're basically taking the odds to her breaking down. It's the only way she could beat. And,
I did see that.
Seems fair price to me.
I did see that one of the tab reps come on the radio this morning saying someone had $10,000 $1.60 for her to win the Cox Plate, and you'd imagine that's where she's going in the spring. And the other thing that
I wouldn't encourage taking those sort of. I mean, that's just first of all, you lock your money up for all those months, and
and she's still got to get there.
Things can go wrong, but once you get to a point like with these, like the race on Saturday, they bet $1.20. Not hard to make a case that was very, very fair odds.
And part of the reason we had a 2-week break, Potts, was Chautauqua won. So that meant that I just was in a hole. At least I didn't lay her on the point of the turn, but I did mouth her and say she was gone. Or it was gone.
He was gone. He's an exciting racehorse, and I can understand why that race got a lot of press. He's very exciting, particularly when he gets circumstances that suit him.
Yeah.
Okay, where he can sort of be the hunter in the race rather than the chaser. Like when he's the chaser, I don't think it suits him. But when he's the hunter, and like there was a point in that race where he pulled out, and you could just see his eyes caught where English was, and he said, "I'm coming to get you." And the race was over like that, but the race was over like that, but you got to watch it unfold almost in slow motion. So because there was never a doubt that he was going to get her.
Thanks, boss. And for those that are inquiring, I'm still in front laying him, so
yes.
Especially after I got beat at the real short odds at Moonee Valley that night. But another thing with Sydney is, and I don't know whether it's different up there, but I think they put a bit of mayonnaise on the crowd figure. They said there was 26,500 there. Randwick's, I've been to Randwick once or twice. Did you go there often after they built the new stand, Potts?
Once.
Yeah, it's not a particularly big venue, is it? Like it's not it's not like going to Flemington or even Caulfield. I would imagine would be bigger than it. It's about
the same as Caulfield as well.
Yeah, but it's like they said there was 26,500. It didn't look like there was that many there. I don't know what else they can do to get it. And then the other thing that Mr. Volandis has decided this week. But,
well, unfortunately, the situation has evolved. Now, I suppose over 100 years, where the big prize money in the autumn is in Sydney, and the big prize money in the spring is in Melbourne.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, for Sydney, that they're competing with the football codes, and it just seems to not stop. Like particularly the last 10 to 20 years, that carnival has become plagued by rain.
It's as if they should be swapped around, and they'd run the autumn carnival here before the football started, and you'd.
Well, that ain't going to happen, right? Because Melbourne's fine in the spring. Melbourne just has better weather for racing, full stop. But yeah, I'm sure if you started with a blank sheet of paper, you wouldn't have it as it is. But there are a lot of traditional things around. It'd be hard to change. I'm not quite sure what the answer is, but geez, they're fighting a losing battle. I mean, as I understand it, Juppy, and it certainly was the case when I used to go to the races a lot, the biggest crowd of the year they get at Randwick is Melbourne Cup Day.
Yeah.
By a long way.
And then I think the second biggest crowd nearly for the year is Girls Get Drunk Day, isn't it? They get a massive crowd. Yeah.
No, it's not that big, but it's...
Well, it's one of the bigger ones they get,
it used to be Golden Slipper Day.
Yeah.
And they have destroyed it. I went to the Golden Slipper, I didn't miss one in 20 years.
Yeah.
And the crowd was never, ever below 30,000. Not a chance. It was, and they were jammed in there. And now it's almost like another Saturday meeting.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Because then Mr. Volandis thinks that he might throw some more money into the Craven Plate to try and get Winks to run there rather than come to Melbourne and run in the Caulfield Stakes. But Dean Lester did make a good point there. Why would you run her in a Group 3 when you're over a Group 1?
It's about prize money and it's about what's best for the horse. I mean, do our viewers really give a shit? Do they care? I wonder. Maybe they do.
Yeah.
Maybe they do. Maybe people are really interested in what Winks does. I don't really care. She's going to win every race she runs in Australia, and she's going to be $1.10. It just has no interest for me in terms of a betting point of view. So I don't know why. I mean,
maybe Mr. Waller could make it interesting and run her in the Everest.
Yeah, that'd
probably because she'd win, but she'd better price that, wouldn't she? Over 1,200.
No, probably $1.50. Well, look, I know the cherry picker's very interested in this. It's almost like his life depends on her racing in Melbourne in the spring at a venue other than.
Well, the thing is, it just gives him more to write about, doesn't it?
And he's like, it's almost like his life's ended because she's going to race more in Sydney. I mean, surely there's more to racing than just one horse. I mean, she's great viewing.
Yeah.
Because you don't see that phenomena very often where the next best group of horses that we have are under severe riding before the turn and she's just like trucking, I mean, like the unfortunate part is she's probably got an awful lot up her sleeve, a lot of improvement, and we're never going to really know how much better she could be going because there's nothing to push her.
No, and it is tricky, isn't it? Because, she's just that far ahead of everyone else. And as far as, star horses at the moment, we're a little bit thin, aren't we? Outside of her, you've sort of got Chautauqua, and they're the ones that are sort of going to maybe resonate with the casual sports fans, but that's about it. Yeah,
that's probably right. But it does tend to regenerate, Juppy. They come out of nowhere, So... we're getting to the end of the Sydney Carnival. I go up to Brisbane, then we start again in August with the new season, and all the horses we expect to be the top performers in the Melbourne Spring Carnival next year. There'll be surprises.
Yeah.
And who knows? It could be a 3-year-old that runs in the Cox Plate and can, be the Quinella horse.
Well, speaking of something that might interest the punters as well is. If they did rerun this Sydney Cup up there, and they put the camp gets their way and they put the Squatty Spirit in there. Like, there's something that could make it an interesting race. Hopefully, she just doesn't puncture.
Well, I think it's hilarious, John, because I'm always bemoaning to myself when I come to the Melbourne Cup or any other 2 mile race that you look at, not very many of them, that what you really want is a horse that's had a 2 mile run.
Yeah.
And there's never any of them.
No, there's never any of them there.
This time we're going to have a bunch of them.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be in the form guide.
So you've got to try and...
So if I was our viewers, I'd be taking very close note of the ones that got to the finish line there on Saturday.
Well, and that's another problem though, Potts. You won't be able to get a replay of it, will you?
No, it won't be easy to get a replay. I wouldn't have thought. Well, maybe, you know. So.
Oh, I think the editors up there at Sky would make sure that we don't get anything like that.
I wouldn't be totally absorbed in the finishing positions, although it has some relevance. I'd be very mindful of the SPs.
Yeah.
But I would think those 6 horses, was it, they got to the finish line, they've got an advantage. That's what I would think.
So, swinging back down here, Potts, we've got an interesting few weeks coming up. As we mentioned in part 1, that was the first of 4 Saturdays, so we've got another 3 Saturdays at Caulfield. We've got Easter Monday racing at Sandown. There's a heap of country meetings on. I'm off to the Wimmera for the weekend. I'm going to Warwick Naville on Saturday and Stall Cup Day on Sunday. And then the week after that, we have the Anzac Day meeting in Flemington. So
Anzac Day's a week after Easter this year.
Yeah, we've got a very late Easter this year. So essentially, well, it works out that there's a public holiday three weeks in a row. So there's some good racing going on.
So just for the subscribers out there, on those weeks, I'll probably do those public holiday meetings as a full set in lieu of the Wednesday meeting.
Yeah.
You know, most likely anyway. Or I'll pick the eyes out of both of them. But certainly the Flemington meeting on Anzac Day, that'll be the midweek meeting for that week.
Yeah, and that's normally a really good meeting, that meeting too. I know it's hard with the workload, Potts, to do and I can remember going to that meeting last year on Easter Monday at Sandown, and it is just a meeting.
There was something on Saturday that happened at Caulfield on Saturday that I wanted to touch on, Jumpy. I'll just quickly... Crystal Dreamer ran really good, strong figures for the 1,000 metres. The cab actually just went okay for a 2-year-old, just okay. The figures in Ken's Dream's race were quite good, and he probably got an advantage by missing the start there. I was miffed that Nikita Berryman didn't protest. If Craig Williams had ridden Toy Boy,
we would have been in there sorting
he would have protested, and I think he would have talked his way through that one, because for those that haven't seen that, the 500, Ken's Dream's inside Toy Boy, who's probably half a length behind it, maybe 3/4 of a length, and as Ken's Dream starts to accelerate, Toy Boy comes off the bit, but then Ken's Dream comes out and virtually takes Toy Boy's running. I don't think they might have just brushed. There wasn't a lot in it, but the rules are for
you got
Ken's Dream to do that.
2 lengths clear.
It has to be a length and a half clear to do it, and he wasn't a full length clear, and certainly could have clipped heels, and it cost Toy Boy a neck and was beaten a lip. So an interesting non-protest there, I thought, but maybe I'm talking from a kick because I did back Toy Boy at Biggles, but sort of light trend, particularly strong figures there, just doesn't. It looks like almost too good a time. So I'm not sure about that. Lifeless Ordinary went nicely. He's a nice horse. He'll win some races here. That was he was first up from the UK.
Yeah.
He's got a lot to offer, that horse. And the one I really wanted to talk about was Lycurgus, because a lot of the other form guys I talked to, I marked at $9, and most of the other form guys I talked to actually marked it a little bit shorter than that, off a really good win at Kine, and then a handy run against the bias at Cranbourne when it was particularly badly ridden. And it seemed to fit into that race with the pressure on quite nicely on Saturday, yet it drifted from $11 in the morning out to $21. And it won like a 5-2 chance, really.
Yeah.
It really won. It was on the home turn. It was the only horse that was, not under severe pressure. And I thought about it after the race and thought, I should have thought about this before the race. I should have realised. I should have in the morning been onto the fact that this horse was going to drift.
Yeah.
Particularly in the 3-year-old staying races, but also in any race over 2,000 metres. But more particularly in the ones where the horses in them don't have much experience at them. The big teams weight pedigree, and this horse has got a sprinting pedigree, and I would venture that the reason it drifted so dramatically was because it was a race full of horses that hadn't been to 2400, and he'd had the softest pedigree in the race. So for those wondering why Lycurgus just drifted like it did and then won as easily as it did, I would suggest that's what was behind it.
Anything else out of the main pots, or not really? Or
No, that covers it, jumping. But that's a really good foundation for us to work with for the upcoming Caulfield meetings. Even though we only got the 6 races in, the racing and the betting in the other races is somewhat helpful, and we've got a line on now how some of that Flemington, Bendigo and Mornington form that fed that Caulfield meeting and the midweek Sandown stuff. We've had a lot of midweek Sandown stuff to use. How that's going to translate to Caulfield under these circumstances, and like I said, the next 3 weeks should be ripe territory for us, particularly if we get more of this southwesterly wind pattern, which tends to make it more on pace.
And chills my bones.
Yeah.
Pots, coming maiden winner or horse to follow?
Oh, there was a maiden that I saw that particularly got my attention.
Well, while you think about that, I'll mention a horse that I think we mentioned a little while ago, because it's still, even though I backed it on Saturday, I've still got a bad taste in my mouth. Canada won in Adelaide on Saturday, and even though I won on it, I'm still sick about the day that it won its maiden in Chuka. But yeah, we did say
that wasn't a maiden at Chuka, but still, it was a good. Yeah.
But we did say back then it had. I think we said on the show that it was a horse to follow, and we thought it had talent. So it's good to see it's going through its grades. And
I think Sally Snow should credit your account that bet.
That's
what I think. Actually, the one that comes to mind, Jumpy.
They still haven't reopened my account.
The maiden that I thought. So if we'd have been doing this show last week, I thought there was a really good maiden at Seymour, and I just wasn't sure yet. I just didn't have any information.
Yeah.
And as I think back on it now, it was Toy Boy that won it.
Okay.
I think the horses that ran behind Toy Boy
in the Seymour maiden,
won't have any trouble winning their maidens shortly.
Yeah.
And I also think the ones that ran behind Shoal at a previous was it Banana or Seymour? It was one of the two. Shoal's won a nice maiden there, going back probably 8 weeks now. So if I was the punters, I'd be looking into those two, and I think there'll be winners out of those races. No, I've only got April here, Jumpy. Not enough's happening in April to
get excited about
yet.
Anyway, punters, have a very happy and safe Easter. If you're on the roads, please be careful and take a break in that. And if you get a chance, there's a ton of meetings on over the Easter weekend. Like as I said, I'm going to Warragambil, but Karanga's on. Mornington's, I know Mornington's got a big meeting there on the Sunday. We've got the last of the picnic meetings, or nearly the last of the picnic. That'll be about Balnarring and Swifts Creek. So if you get a chance, head out to some of these country meetings, and thanks to everyone who has seen me at the track and comes up and says g'day and introduces themselves. Like there's been a heap of them lately, so thanks to everyone that's done that. We do appreciate it. It makes it all worthwhile. So head to One to Follow. You can grab my footy stuff and you can grab all pots of stuff there, and we will be back at some stage, I imagine, Pots.
Yeah, we'll try and come back next week.
Yeah, we'll try and do it after Easter. All right, good luck, punters.